Okay, class, we want to discuss calcium balance. Calcium has several functions in the human body. The blood calcium level is important so as to have adequate calcium for the functions, transmission of nerve impulses, muscle contraction, blood coagulation, and others. Any calcium left over after all of these functions have been taken care of can be stored in the bone. I would say that the most important need for calcium in the human body, though, is this transmission of nerves. Because if the nerves do not work, then you're dead. If the nerves do not work, the brain and other nerves, you're dead. So though there are many functions, this would be of primary importance. But you still need to take care of these functions, and any calcium left over would then be stored in the bone. Okay. Bone calcium. So thus, since bone is the last in line, bone will act for a bank for calcium. It will serve as a bank. It's the last function in line, but an important one. The more calcium left over after all the other functions of the body have been maintained is stored in the bone. The bone thus gets hard and strong. The bone gets hard and strong. The calcium in bone is stored in several forms, but the best form is the hydroxyapatite crystal form. The best form is the hydroxyapatite crystal form. Calcium is the basis of the inorganic matrix. So calcium is stored in many forms in bone, but this is the best and strongest form. Calcium is the basis for the inorganic matrix. When calcium levels get lower than the optimal value, calcium will be withdrawn from the bone. The lower the calcium level, the more calcium is withdrawn from the bone. If too much calcium is withdrawn, the bones get soft, termed osteomalacia. The inorganic matrix, which is the calcified matrix, is responsible for hardness of bone. And the organic matrix is responsible for bone tensile strength. Okay? So when we look at it, the blood calcium level, the amount of calcium in the blood should range somewhere between about 8.5 and 10.5 milligrams per deciliter of blood, with a median value of 9.5. So you're trying to maintain this blood calcium level to take care of these functions right here. Okay, anything left over would go into the bone. Okay, let's go further. What primarily controls the blood calcium level? Two hormones, primarily. Parathyroid hormone and calcitonin. Parathyroid hormone is responsible for raising the blood calcium level. Calcitonin is responsible for lowering the blood calcium level. Most control is by parathyroid hormone. Calcitonin is only needed a sparsity of times. Okay? Now, when we look at parathyroid hormone, it's released from the parathyroid gland as the major controller of blood calcium level. Let's look at where the parathyroid glands are. So here's your neck. That's your thyroid gland in the neck. The thyroid gland is composed of two lobes and an isthmus. Two lobes and an isthmus. If you pull the thyroid gland off the neck and turn it to the back side, you would see four dots. Looks like pus pockets. They'd be white, really. Those are the parathyroid glands. They ride the back of the thyroid gland. Separate glands just hooked to the thyroid gland. That's the ones that secrete parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone, how does it work to increase the blood calcium level? It increases breakdown of bone by osteoclasts, thus freeing up the calcium. Increase resorption of calcium in the kidneys. You would not pee out as much calcium. Increase absorption of calcium in the intestines. When calcium is in the diet, some of it goes in the feces. So what PTH would do would be to increase that calcium receptors in the intestine to bring more calcium in. Okay, let's go forward. So the influence of parathyroid, since bones are the largest reservoir, the bank, you would pull from the bones. You'd also the kidneys and small intestine. But this action happens indirectly through vitamin D. When you let calcium increase, you also allow phosphate to increase. But let me go to vitamin D. Okay. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. Vitamin D is the only vitamin that can act as a hormone, and that's what we talk about now. Vitamin D does all the functions of PTH and actually does them better. Cells that have receptors for PTH also have receptors for vitamin D. Okay, so vitamin D acts like PTH. What's the tie-in? How does PTH and vitamin D tie in together? Okay, PTH is needed to maximally activate the enzymes in the kidneys to take vitamin D2, which is an inactive form of vitamin D, to vitamin D3, the active form. Okay, let's go here. Vitamin D synthesis in the body. How do you make it? Okay, you can take it from the outside, but you also can make it in your body. Cholesterol, which you know is in your body, steroid, can be converted to 7-dehydrocholesterol. This can occur in the stratum basale cells and stratum spinosum cells of the skin. 7-dehydrocholesterol, which is also called D1, okay, I shouldn't say that. 7-dehydrocholesterol, when converted to cholecalciferol is actually called vitamin D1. Cholecalciferol is called vitamin D1. This conversion of this here, precursor to this, occurs in the skin under the influence of UVB light, ultraviolet B light. That's D1. Okay. Cholecalciferol, vitamin D1, is converted to 25-hydroxycholecalciferol D2. So when D1 is in the body, it gets into circulation, and when it passes through the liver, is converted to D2. Okay, D2, which is this, is converted to D3, which is the active form, and that occurs in the kidney. Kidney enzymes work on it, but PTH turns on the kidney enzyme. PTH turns on the kidney enzyme to make vitamin D3, which is the active form of vitamin D. So I go back, vitamin D does all the functions. So any cells that have receptors for PTH have receptors for vitamin D, and vitamin D does a better function than even PTH. Okay? Now, we go to calcitonin. Okay. What you have is, let me go here real quick, make this bigger, and I'll reduce it. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to say, here's your thyroid gland again. The thyroid gland now, I'm going to go into the thyroid gland, not the parathyroids, but the thyroid gland. If we were to look at it under the microscope, histologically, what you would see would be these things called thyroid follicles. Okay, these cells surrounding, these cuboidal cells surrounding here are called follicular cells. These are the cells that make the thyroid hormone you know about, which is T3, T4, the stuff that speeds you up. But you also have some cells that are not in the follicles, surrounding the follicles. These are called parafollicular cells, C cells, some will call them. These are the cells that secrete calcitonin. These are the cells that secrete calcitonin. So now I pull this down. Okay. So what happens is, when we look at this, is basically this. That calcitonin is secreted by the parafollicular cells. This hormone acts as a backup hormone. Here's how it would work. Calcitonin lowers blood calcium level. But when would it come in? If the PTH level falls and the blood calcium level is still too high, then calcitonin is released. What does calcitonin do? It has receptors on the same cells we kind of talked about. So it decreases the blood calcium level. Now, calcitonin would have receptors on the osteoblast. So calcitonin would make you make more bone, which would pull the calcium out of the blood. It would make you make more bone, which would pull the calcium out of the blood. Okay? So we go further. So here's PTH again, you can look at. All right. So when the blood calcium level gets low, PTH is released from the parathyroids, and it does with the bone, the kidney, and the intestines. Here again is this. Primary control by parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid. So calcitonin only comes in if the blood calcium level is still too high after you released it. Remember, calcitonin, let's go back here now. I'm going to put it right here. We're going to move that to the side. So calcitonin, come here. Let's put it right here if I can get it real quick here. Calcitonin activates osteoblast to make more bone, and it inhibits osteoclast. So bone is not broken down as much. Okay? So we come back here then. You can look at the regulation here. So what's the problem then? Here's the thing. Hypocalcemia can cause problems. It can increase excitability and muscle tetany. Your muscles will work twitchy. The nerves will work twitchy. Ultimately, finally, they will just stop working. Okay. Hypercalcemia makes the nerves work sluggish and has heart arrhythmias. So in other words, too high or too low is a problem. Too high or too low. So hypocalcemia then, let's go back, would cause all of these problems here. Nerve transmission would be screwed up. Muscle contraction, all of this. But hypercalcemia also can be a problem. And that's why I put this here to show you that both too high and too low can be bad. So thus what you need to have is a balance. All right. And that's where those come in. All right. Hopefully this will help you on that particular aspect. Thank you.